Ready.
Hello, Susie. I am so excited to have you here today so we can chat about your article that has just run on butterflyliving.org.
Thanks, Mary. I'm really excited to talk about it too.
Great. So I have a few questions that I think will expand on your beautiful writing. The word lighthearted, which I love. I love the sound of it. I'd never really given it that much thought, but you talk about being lighthearted. Can you share what it means and how living lighthearted has changed you?
Yes, it's actually not a word that I used to use very often either, Mary. I thought I think it's kind of a funny word, but I'm becoming very attached to it now because of what I've learned. And it became a bigger part of my vocabulary actually as I was going through some treatment for anxiety. I've really struggled with anxiety most of my life in different forms. And it really got worse after I lost my mom. And part of the way that it manifested was in my driving. And I just was so determined to not let anxiety take over to where I couldn't feel comfortable driving. So I was actually in therapy for that, and I was working on it. And my therapist said, "Why don't you find a picture that helps you feel calm or peaceful when you're in the car?" And the picture that I found was actually not like a nature picture or anything like that. It was this picture of 5-year-old me, like floating in an inner tube at my grandparents' cabin. And it's a black and white photo that my grandpa took, and it just took me back to this feeling of being a kid and being carefree and not having a lot of stress or weight on my life, just being able to play and float. And so anyway, I still have that picture in my car. It's been years and years now that I keep that in my car, and um, it kind of prompted me to learn more about what does that mean to be
Mhm.
lighthearted? What is that word? And so I actually looked it up as I was working on this writing to try to encourage other people. And it said, well, I'll give you the short
Yeah,
definition.
yeah.
It means free from anxiety,
There
which is
you
what
go.
I wanted to be, and hopeful, which is also how I really live as a hopeful person and I want to live as a hopeful person. And so that sounded really good to me. So I just I wanted to figure out how does it work if I'm a Christian? I believe in Jesus. I trust these promises, but I still have this hard stuff.
Right.
How can I feel lighthearted in the midst of it? Because it just keeps coming. Stuff just keeps coming. You get over this and you're working on this, and this is hard, and maybe this is hard at the same time. And I really believe that he makes our life different because we belong to him, but it doesn't mean we're not going to have trouble.
That's true.
So.
That's so true. I love that. And I love the visual. I'm a very visual person. I too used to float in an inner tube. I still remember
Oh,
a red
yeah.
one. I love that. And I love that you have that to ground you back to that lighthearted feeling. So that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing about anxiety too, because so many people, I have one of my children. So we talk about it a lot.
Mhm.
And a lot of times Christians don't want to talk about those difficult topics. So I appreciate you being so open about that. I think it's really important that we do have conversations about the hard
I
things.
agree. I agree.
So
I've learned so much about Jesus through anxiety. So it's again one of those things you don't want to have it, but I'm thankful
yeah,
for what I went through because it brought me so much closer to him and continues to bring me so much closer to him. So,
that's great. Well, you can't fix something if you deny having it. So
right.
I've learned I have to say, why is this bothering me?
Hmm.
Research it, and that way I can get help. I can pray. I can, talk to other people about it. So it's a great thing to be open about it. I appreciate that. So you write about four promises of God. Can you briefly tell us about those promises?
Yeah, I was really praying and thinking about your group of readers and my group of readers as I tried to pull promises for the blog for your Butterfly Living site. And I mean, I had a lot to choose from. There's hundreds of promises in the Bible, but I was trying to think, what are some things that we might be struggling with as we're heading into a brand new year with a lot of stuff going on in the country, in the world, and in our own personal lives. So I thought, okay, we definitely need to know that nothing can separate us from God's
Mhm.
love. So I chose Romans 8, 38 to 39. That one is just so key in my life that no matter what's going on, no matter how I feel, no matter what I've done, no matter what anybody else is doing, nothing is going to get in the way of Jesus's love for me, and our relationship is tight forever, you know. And so that one, I had
Good.
to have that one in there. And then another one I feel a lot of times for women our age, especially, or I guess women in general, we are just tired people. We are just so tired and busy, and it seems like we never get time to rest, and everybody talks about how important it is. But I really believe there's a kind of rest that Jesus gives us
Mm,
that we can't really create for ourselves. And it's that real heart rest that he talks about in Matthew 11:28. And so that verse has been really helpful to me, to that promise of that I will give you rest. Come to me, you weary and heavy burdened, I will give you rest.
yeah, I like that you said that we can't give ourselves. We
Yeah,
do all these things to rest, but that deep soul rest, it's
yeah,
only found one place. So that's beautiful. I agree.
right. And that's the kind I'm talking about when I talk about um, just resting your heart in him, is that he's holding it. We don't have to do it. And so I'll
That's
talk more
right.
about that coming up. But a couple of the promises I picked from Isaiah because, uh, well, there's so many in there that I love, but I picked Isaiah 43:19 because God will make a way. And I just feel like sometimes we need that reminder that this is another, I'm sneaking another one in, okay? It's Isaiah 55, 9 through 11 that kind of goes with that, is that he'll make a way, but also his ways are so much higher than ours. So
Yes.
when we don't see a way, or we don't feel like things are happening the way we were hoping, or we're just, just discouraged, or doubting, or all those things that come with the things not working out that we maybe hoped would. I feel like we need to remember that he can make a way when there is no way.
Mm,
And even when we don't understand his ways, they're higher than ours. And that's why we can't always understand, but he has a better plan, and he's able to make it happen.
that's
So
good.
yeah,
Yes, we
we
just have to surrender. You know,
yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
such a great promise, and sometimes it's hard for us to let go, to stop gripping so that we can walk in that promise and
Yeah.
trust that that promise will come true. Very good. I love those.
And the last one is also from Isaiah, and it's just a really basic one for times of fear and anxiety, and that's Isaiah 41:10. And I just the end of it, especially where it talks about he will uphold us. And
Mm.
I like to turn that around and say he will hold us up. He
Oh,
will he holds on to us when we can't even feel like we're holding on to him sometimes. And I just think sometimes in the real crisis times, or the really overwhelming times, we need to be reminded of that his hand is holding ours, and we are safe there. So,
that's so good. Those are great. And you go into those promises in the article. I recommend anyone listening to go to butterflyliving.org and look up Susie's article. It's very good. It's very inspiring. In your article, you mentioned hardships surrounding so many people. So, can you quickly tell us how do you focus on those promises you just shared and the many other promises that are available? How do you do that in the midst of a really hard time?
yes, and that was why I wanted to write Lighthearted the way that I did. I kind of chunked it up by hard things
Mm,
so that people could look up exactly what they're going through, um, and find hope right away for the like verses that pertain to the struggle, whether it's heartbreak or loneliness or illness, all those hard things that we go through. But then my next goal, and my even deeper goal, is to make it really simple, not just to find them, but to remember them.
Mm,
So when I write
that's good.
devotions, I try to leave or focus on like a keyword. One of my first book is called Just One Word, and I focus on one word at a time. And then I try to do the same thing with Lighthearted because it helps me to
Yes.
just try to remember one word through the day that helps me connect to that promise. So, I mean, I teach kindergarten, so I like to make things simple.
I like that. I like it's simple, but it's so deep because you're taking
Yeah.
this one simple exercise and you're bringing it to another level.
Yeah.
So it's just a really great, way to look at it.
Yes, and kindergartners are really smart. I'm not minimizing that at all. They're amazingly smart, but you have to take really complicated subjects and ideas and make them easy to remember or easy to understand when they're that age and they're learning, and it so that's fun for me. It's challenging for me, and then it helps me to do it with God's word too, to not again, not minimize it. It's so big, it's
Yeah.
so rich, it's so deep. But how am I going to remember that all when I'm in the middle of this overwhelming emotional crisis? I'm at the hospital or I'm, getting a phone call that, makes my heart race and I can't think straight. I can remember one word.
Right.
And one of the words that I always try to have ready to go, no matter what's happening, is same. And that was there was a verse that was at our church up above the altar for many, many years, and it was Hebrews 13:8. It said, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I did write about that a little bit at the beginning of the article, but if I can just remember same,
Right.
Jesus is the same, then that whole truth just kind of like stays with me no matter what feels different, no
Yes.
matter what's changing, Jesus is the same. So that's kind of how I try to encourage people in crisis. Just hang on to a word
Yeah,
that connects you to the verse, that connects you to the truth about Jesus.
that's really beautiful. And I need simple sometimes. I love that. I guess it's similar to picking a word of the year and
Yes.
hold on to that word. But
Yes.
you're talking about having several words that you apply to different, I guess, seasons or situations that you hold
Mhm.
on to. Yeah, it's a great practice. I love that. And I love kindergarten. I teach kindergarten at our church. I
Oh,
volunteer,
you do.
and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the age that I work with, and I
That
just
is the
love it.
best. Yeah,
It so
they
is.
are so much fun.
They
Yeah.
are. They're beautiful. I love that age. So, as we wrap up, you have this great quote. The faithful, redeeming love that Jesus showed to those who were struggling when he walked on the earth is the same kind of love he has for us. So, can you close with a word of encouragement for someone possibly that's not feeling loved or maybe needs to be lighthearted or needs to cling to a particular word because they're really going through a really difficult season?
Yes. Here's what it is. Take heart, daughter.
Mm,
Take heart, daughter. I have spent a lot of time in the past year or so studying how Jesus talked to women in the Gospels and how he worked with and treated and interacted with women. And one of my favorite stories is when the woman who had been bleeding for 12 years reached for him and touched his robe, and just how scandalous and scary
yes.
and culturally wrong that was for her to do that. And his response in that moment is just so encouraging to me because I feel like how many times have we felt like we're on the outside
Mm,
or we did it wrong
yes.
or we don't deserve or he wouldn't notice, and yet she she touched his robe and he felt the power go out from him and he turned and looked at her, and it almost makes me cry. And what did he say? He said, "Take heart, daughter."
I
He
love
knew. Yeah, I just feel like he says that to each one of us, whatever's going on, whether we're afraid or feeling guilty or feeling lost or heartbroken. he says, "Take heart, daughter. I see you. I love you." And these promises are for you today, too. He lived at that certain time with and interacted with that woman, but he does that for us today, too. I really, really want to encourage people that aren't feeling it right now to just let him turn and look at you and hear him say, "Take heart, daughter."
I love that. I love that. What a precious message for me. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, as we close, can you let us know tell us about your books, where we can find them, your blog? You can read her article, as I mentioned a little earlier, if you go to butterflyliving.org. Susie's article's on the website, but she also has a
Yeah.
couple of books, right?
Yeah, so this is my newest one. We're talking about the word lighthearted.
Oh, I love it. It's
Up
beautiful.
there. Yeah, and it's a 100-day devotional. There's 100 promises in there, and they're all focusing on one word. So it says one word promises to lighten your load and lift up your heart.
Beautiful.
And then the other one I was talking about is just one word. That's the one my first one. And these are all based on words from the Message Bible, so they're a little bit more like
Yeah.
conversational words and a little bit more it's just
Approachable,
a different, refreshing
approachable.
take.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Are those available on Amazon?
They are, yes. Lighthearted is available in a lot of places, but Amazon's a good place to start.
Okay,
Christianbook.com, and it's on Lifeway. And then my website is www.susiecrosby, and that's SUSIECROSBY.com. And I'm on Facebook as Susie Crosby Author. And then Instagram, I'm on there a little bit more at Susie Crosby.
that's awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for your heart and for sharing. And thank you for your article. It was just a blessing to have you as part of Butterfly Living to kick off 2025.
Thank you. It really was a blessing for me to be able to share with Butterfly Living and just hear all the beautiful comments. You have some great followers. I hope they'll jump on and follow me too, because I'd love to interact with them.